Nick was laboring in some of the poses in his midsection, even though he has improved.
What's up guys and welcome. You are watching Fazi Fitness. So guys, channel membership is now live. Link is in the description and the first comment. Do check it out. That would really help support the channel. So let's start this video with Martin-Fitzwater and his first official response after this year's Pittsburgh Pro. A show that he worked extremely hard for to get that first place finish. Now we really did not see much of the physique updates from Martin-Fitzwater throughout this prep. But based on what his team, especially his coach Stefan, they really believed that Martin was looking amazing leading into the show, and Stefan even said that he had a solid chance at winning this entire thing. But what happened was a total opposite of that. It was a complete miscalculation in terms of the peak for this show, and this is as simple as it gets. Now that the comparison shots of Martin from the Olympia last year, which was his best look ever, versus this year's Pittsburgh Pro are out, you can see that crazy amount of difference in his overall conditioning and the overall polish as well. The Olympia last year was like a picture-perfect peak for Martin, and those extra 10 pounds that Martin and his team were hoping is gonna make one hell of a difference on the stage. That was mentioned multiple times by Martin and Stefan. That just simply did not matter at all on the stage against Nick and Derek. And the reason for that was the lack of conditioning, the lack of detail. Now some of us are kind of surprised why Martin did not go for this year's New York Pro, because that show was just 1 week after the Pittsburgh Pro. So it made all the sense in the world to do that show and fix all the problems in terms of their peak. For the record, Martin never said that he's gonna be doing the New York Pro. But after all the explanations that we heard, that it was a missed peak at this year's Pittsburgh Pro, doing the New York Pro to redeem himself, that could have been the right call. So the New York Pro is now less than 6 days away. But now that the list is out, Martin isn't in it. And that could mean he's shutting the season down, possibly all the way till the Olympia this year. So Martin was top 4 last year. But we have to keep in mind, Nick wasn't there, and he just lost to Nick and Derek. So put Hardy and Samson in there. And from where Martin left off, from this year's Pittsburgh Pro stage, it seems like this is gonna be a very difficult show for him at the Olympia this year, especially to keep that 4th place spot. Unless he shows up with all that added size and also bring that same level Olympia conditioning as we saw from him last year. So do let me know, what do you guys think? Can Martin bounce back?
Just his overall build, the legs, the varicose veins in his legs, these aren't things you can ignore. When it's close, you're nitpicking and you're looking for reasons to put somebody in first and somebody in second place.
So some more explanation came out over the decision of Derek Lunsford winning over Nick Walker at this year's Pittsburgh Pro. And this time the person is Bob Ciccarello. Now it is getting more and more clear that the biggest reason why Nick lost to Derek, that was because of his midsection. The fact is the show was very close between Nick and Derek, as both these guys were simply awesome. And Derek came back so much better for the finals. And Nick just gave the judges a reason to mark him down. And that was the heavy breathing and letting go of his stomach, especially during the transitions, and that was kind of distracting. So this show and its outcome, that also clarifies that you simply do not get rewarded if you have a bloated stomach and midsection on the stage. Now I must say, by this same metric, maybe Phil Heath, the legend, he should have lost the Olympia title to Big Ramy back in 2017. But back then, this wasn't taken into consideration a lot. But in these past few years, this has been a top priority, and they want to see more aesthetic and more shapely physiques, more tapered down waistlines, and they want to see those guys to be the biggest ambassadors of the sport. Just take a look at the Olympia champions in the last 7 years. Sean Roden had crazy small waistline, very aesthetic. Brandon Carey had that same thing. Big Ramy, in his 2 years as the Olympia champion, I won't say he was aesthetic, but he kept his midsection very tight and in check at all times. Same was the case with Hadi Choopan and Derek, and now Samson Dauda, probably one of the most aesthetic guy out there. So in order for Nick Walker to fight for the Olympia title, he has to make sure he doesn't give away this big reason to the judges to mark him down. There is no doubt that he's one of the biggest and one of the most freaky guy in the men's open right now. And just watch the latest episode of Heavy Muscle Radio on RX Muscle. Even Chris Aceto, the coach of Derek, he gave 4 poses to Nick over Derek. That is how good Nick Walker was at this show. So Wesley Wizards, the former Arnold champion, he was probably the biggest surprise on this year's Pittsburgh Pro guest posing, which happened this past weekend. And those pictures, they are enough to prove that he simply doesn't belong in the classic physique category. He most likely won't ever have a balanced physique in terms of his upper and lower half ever in classic physique because of a very simple fact. He has a weight cap that he just simply cannot ignore, and he cannot grow a body part, and I'm gonna say a stubborn body part, with such a weight restriction. So Wesley stood next to all the classic physique guys, and he literally dwarfed each and every one of them with his size that he's carrying right now. And I'm gonna say even his legs, they looked overall way better compared to how he looked like, not just at this year's Arnold Ohio, but also at Detroit Pro, which was arguably his best ever. Plus, he was in a superb off-season condition. So the one picture that got the most attention here, that was him hitting a side chest next to the biggest bodybuilder in the world right now, Samson Dauda. Now, I'm not implying that they're comparable, but the potential of Wesley going into the men's open and presenting a much better package, that is 100% there. It was so impressive to see this kind of fullness on Wesley's physique, especially in that upper half. And I must say, Wesley should 100% try and do a men's open show once at the very least. I am very sure that the fans will massively appreciate that. And who knows, he might fit in a bigger category very well. I'm not saying it's gonna be easy, but he can 100% let his body get bigger and grow without a weight cap hanging over his head. So the high definition posing footage of the reigning 212 Olympia champion Keone Pearsons, that is now out by Gilco Productions. But I want to point out to the statement that was made by Keone Pearsons right after the Pittsburgh Pro guest posing and after sharing the stage with the reigning Olympia champion Samson Dauda. So here's the statement, and that clearly shows Keone's vision for his future. Now we know he's gonna be very untouchable in the 212 for as long as he wants to. In fact, he can have a very long streak like Flex Lewis. Well, let's just hope that he switches over to the men's open bodybuilding in 1 or in 2 years max, because he has all the tools to battle it out with the big boys, with the best of the best in the world, and possibly win the ultimate bodybuilding title. Maybe not right now, but if he keeps on growing and he keeps on evolving. His coach Patrick Tour, he also believes that Keone is gonna be the best bodybuilder in the world one day. So there is only one major concern for Keone Pearsons as he continues to get bigger and as he puts on more muscle. That is, he has to be very mindful about his midsection. He cannot let that waistline get any bigger because the entire beauty of his physique, that is 100% dependent on that. So he weighed 200 pounds on the stage last year at the Olympia. But the man looked above 220 pounds at that show. And that is simply because of that insane illusion that he's able to create on the stage with his insane V-taper, his unreal proportions. Now, we aren't forcing Keone Pearsons to jump into the men's open bodybuilding, but it's gonna be fun if he jumps into one of those open shows which are scheduled right after the Olympia this year. The men's open bodybuilding this coming weekend at the New York Pro. That is gonna be very exciting. Now, not as exciting as the Pittsburgh Pro, but still, it's gonna be one hell of a show. But the classic physique, that is gonna be another close battle, as both the top two from the Pittsburgh Pro, Terence Ruffin and Josema Beast, they're in for another showdown. So only 1 point separated both these guys at the Pittsburgh Pro this year. And contrary to what many of us believed, that this is gonna be a slam dunk by Terence Ruffin, that turned out to be a very close battle. And some of these shots by Josema Beast, most noticeably the back double biceps, that is so unbelievably impressive. The man simply gets so dry and so shredded that Terence, even with a better overall balance, he loses that shot, and he himself admitted that he needs more work on his back. So there was an 18-month gap between the two shows that Terence did, and as per his coach, he was up 12 pounds compared to the last showing. And looking at his comparison pictures, he really did make some impressive improvements all around. The real question is that, what does Josema Beast needs to do? If Terence shows up just like the Pittsburgh Pro, can Jose Manuel get even more shredded than what we just saw? Well, we cannot say, unless we see that happen. Although he did solidify himself as the first call-out guy at the Olympia this year, because we all know he's gonna qualify for the Olympia sooner or later. If not here, at the New York Pro, then in some other show. So hit the thumbs up button if you liked the video and smash the subscribe button if you wanna come back for more. Thanks for watching.